In this video, I'm going to share the things that I do to generate course sales nearly every day on autopilot. Sounds amazing, right? Took some work to get here. I'm going to share exactly the systems that I set up. My name is Kate Putnam. I'm the psychology-driven brand strategist. I help entrepreneurs change the world with what they know. And a really powerful way to do that is to create an online course that shares your genius with people exactly when they need it. If you're new here, welcome. If you have been watching, welcome back. So excited to have you. Let's dive in. To set the stage, I want to acknowledge that I have been selling courses since 2015. I realized relatively early in my business that the one-on-one side, as much as I loved it, as much as I loved having those conversations and personal relationships with my clients, it wasn't scalable. And at the time, I was very pregnant. I started my course creation journey at about 20 weeks pregnant with my second child, anticipating the fact that I was going to go on some kind of maternity leave. And I still wanted to be able to help people even when I wasn't able to directly spend my one-on-one time with them. So I set out to create my first course, and since then it's been a wild ride. The first 2 years were relatively slow. Remember, I had a newborn baby and we actually moved to live in Italy right at the same time. So there's a lot going on in my business, but it has grown exponentially so far, thanks to this evergreen system that I set up in my business. Now, I will acknowledge I still run live launches of my courses. I think it's a fantastic tool to generate a lot of attention, a lot of excitement around a particular course. But at the same time, I understand that I'm not able to be there and launching at the exact time that is right for the people that want to take my course. Similar to that realization that I had when I realized I couldn't serve everybody when I was only serving them one-on-one. So evergreen courses were the way for me to help people when they were ready to be helped, no matter what else I was doing in my business at the time. So that first course that I launched back in 2015, it's called Brand New Brand. It helps people build a brand from A to Z, from scratch, step by step by step. It is now an evergreen course for me. I also have a suite of 12 brand archetype courses that are also available on Evergreen. I'm going to use the archetype courses as my example to share the system that I set up to generate consistent revenue and sales for these courses. If you're not familiar, brand archetypes are these patterns, these unconscious categories that we put people, humans, characters into, whether we're watching a movie, reading a book, or participating or engaging with a brand. So it can be a really powerful tool for brands to deepen the relationship that they have with their ideal clients and to reach people on that emotional gut level. Archetypes have been around for a long time. I'm not the person that invented them, but I've been on this mission to collect as much data and inspiration and insights and examples for each of the 12 archetypes into these courses. And another beautiful thing, let me just caveat this, or let me just recognize this really quickly. The coolest thing about selling online courses is that they're not stagnant. Even if you put them on Evergreen, you still have the opportunity to upgrade them over time as you learn, as you grow, as you find more examples in my case. It is an incredible opportunity to evolve over time and still serve people where you're at. So the first thing that I did right was I set up all of my courses on Teachable. Teachable is amazing because they have a really great user interface. They have a robust software that hosts all of the course materials. And, which was most important to me, they process the payments. They process all of the money stuff. So I get deposits in my account. They're taking care of all of the back end financial stuff, including the merchant processing. So I gladly pay for that service through Teachable. They also give you the opportunity to customize the experience that your students have. So your Teachable course might echo somebody else that has a course on Teachable, but it's not exactly the same. You get to put your own brand twist on that, which I appreciated as a branding person. All right, so I'm going to teach you the 3-step system that I use to sell my courses consistently, nearly daily. The first step is to attract new humans to your audience. So many people are out there creating content and just hoping that people discover them, and they completely ignore this stage. But you need to be intentional about it if you want to grow quickly and if you want to grow an audience that is really excited to buy your courses. So the first step in this brand fluency archetype course funnel, we are going to call it a funnel, but don't freak out because it doesn't have to be incredibly complicated, is to be bringing new people into my orbit all of the time. I do this in several different ways. I've been in business for a long time, so I've had a chance to develop all these different assets and systems. So what that looks like for me is I will speak on people's podcasts, or I'll speak to other people's audiences. I'll teach classes to other people's audiences. Any chance that I can get to spread the word about brand archetypes, I usually say yes. I'm a mother of 2, so I don't always say yes, but almost always if I have that opportunity, it's a heck yes. Another way that I do this is through ads. So I will advertise my brand archetype quiz that's on my website to cold audiences, meaning they have never heard of me before. I'm asking them to just start this journey with me to figure out what their brand archetype is, and then they can decide if they want to continue that journey with me. So think about what is going to be your attraction mechanism, your attraction strategy to continually be bringing new people into your orbit. The second part is now people have encountered me and the brand archetypes. They have either opted in because they think I'm a nerd and I have something to teach them, which is true, or they've self-selected out because maybe they just don't resonate with me or my message. All of that is beautiful and it's part of branding. So we've gotten to this point where they're a yes, and chances are they have taken the brand quiz on my website. This is the gateway, if you will, between the attraction phase and the nurturing phase, which is coming next. We need to invite people into our orbit and actually ask them to stay in some way. It could be a more traditional lead magnet, but I really enjoyed having a brand quiz. My quiz has been taken over 100,000 times, well over 100,000 times now. And at the end, I offer people a free inspiration kit for the archetype that they tested for in exchange for their email address. So that invites them into my world where we can begin to nurture and build the relationship from there. All right, so they're in my orbit. The second stage of this phase or of this system is to nurture. And nurture means to build trust, to build not urgency, but to build in the importance of what you're selling, to educate people and to indoctrinate them into your brand and into your product. One of the best ways to do this is on your email list, because you have more control over that relationship than just trying to reach your people on social media or in the news feeds, because we know how frustrating those algorithms can be. So emails are probably, I will just say, emails are the best strategy. They're not the only strategy. I also will nurture my audience on social media, on YouTube, but having the email list is really the creme de la creme. So we want to build that email list, and then we want to start a sequence of events that's going to lead to them being asked if they want to buy the course. For me, my archetype courses are $297. So for entrepreneurs who are building their brands and they have the opportunity or the possibility of making thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars by having a more effective brand, this is a relatively low investment for those people in exchange for the value. So I, in my case, have a 5-day nurturing sequence where I share a bunch of free resources. I talk about the importance of brand archetypes. I explain how and where you're going to implement archetypes into your brand. And then I also invite people to the gate that is going to lead to the sales conversation, which is our third step of the process. So they go through this stage of being warmed up, of building trust. And then at the end of that sequence, I invite them to either just directly buy the brand archetype courses, which they're free to do at any time, or to go to my 3 keys to a crystal clear brand webinar. Now, to host an evergreen webinar does take a bit of tech finesse. I'm using a platform called Easy Webinar. It's not cheap. There's ways to do it on more of a free basis. You could just embed a recorded video somewhere, but I wanted to get the extra data and to be able to be in more control of that webinar watching experience and that follow-up experience. I wanted to be able to know if people watched the webinar or not. So I use Easy Webinar for this purpose. Now, one thing I have found, even with evergreen funnels, you still need to give people a reason to take action now. So I have an offer at the end of my webinar that offers a 2-for-1 deal on the archetype courses. And most people do want more than one because I teach and I suggest and people like to focus on a primary and a secondary archetype. So I give a special bonus at the end of that webinar, which I enforce with a tool called Deadline Funnel. I know that some people keep it simple. They give an offer, but they don't necessarily enforce it. The link doesn't ever go away, but they just stop promoting it after a specific period of time. So that's a option as well if you want to keep it more low tech. But I do use a tool called Deadline Funnel, which creates an individual countdown for that bonus for each human that goes through the funnel. I will acknowledge that if somebody just signs up for the funnel again, they can go back through it and the countdown resets. So it's not a perfect system. And it is a little weird. It's like, why do we have to give people urgency? But that's just how the human mind, how human psychology works. And if people want to game that system to get that bonus again, or if somebody schedules a sales call with me and they have already, their timer has already gone up, I'm totally fine with honoring that bonus whenever anybody asks. So that is the segue, and that webinar becomes the sales mechanism that actually gets people into the course. And then thanks to Teachable, once they have access, they get to consume all of the content, they can improve their brand, they get to do all of the things that I promised to them leading up to this case. So the takeaway for you is that I want you to think about each of these 3 steps if you want to sell courses daily. How are you attracting new people into your audience? How are you going to nurture them and get ready to buy once they're in your audience? And finally, how are you going to ask them to buy? Maybe you do a webinar like I do. Maybe you have just a sales page. Maybe you invite them to a short sales call. There's lots of different options. Just choose a primary strategy for each of those 3 phases. And if you want help setting up this entire system, and maybe not just for courses, but for the services that you might sell as well, I have a 6-month mentorship program. It is application only. It's intended for people who already have a brand defined, who already have a product that they have sold before in the past. But if you're in the stage of listening to this video and getting ready to set up that entire system, I have a 6-month mentorship, like I said, to help you do that. So I'm including the link for the application down here in this description, whatever that word is, in the description of the YouTube video. So you can check that out if that sounds like it would be of service for you. So happy selling, happy serving. I'm so excited to hear about your course sales. And I'd love to know in the comments, what are your 3 primary strategies to attract, to nurture, and to sell your courses on autopilot? I'll see you guys soon.